All right. Nice to see you, Zach. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi. I want to give you a bit of a space as well, just to give a slight introduction to who you are, if you'd like, to everybody that's new here as well that might be watching the stream afterwards. Welcome to give an introduction.
Hey Guardian, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity. I am the creator of Unique Prepping, a channel dedicated to helping people understand the importance of prepping while emphasizing unity and community. I have cerebral palsy, which I refer to as a unique ability, and believe that it enhances your prepping skills by giving you a different perspective on survival. Through my content, I show that limitations don't define a person and that anyone can prepare for life's challenges. My work spans various topics like moral values, faith, the education system, and the importance of uniting as a community. I also partnered with a parallel channel called Stolen Spirits, focusing on raising awareness about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, #MIUG, collaborating with organizations like Special Tactics Aid and Rescue to incorporate search and rescue missions. I'm deeply involved in my gardening projects, such as growing potatoes, and I promote self-sufficiency through both mental and physical preparation for the future.
Perfect. Before we bring up that banner as well, I think that one of the capabilities as well that you're really strong with, that I've seen over time, is your capability to bring the community together. There's a lot of people that you're able to rally around you as well when it comes to preparedness and the knowledge that they're able to provide and share with one another. I think that, hey, by the way, Truth with Tom and everybody that's in the comment section, hi to you guys. I think that it's important as well to be able to bring that community element into it, but not only that, to be engaging the way that you are with everybody. So I really appreciate that too. And I think that when it comes to gardening, it's something that is so good. You guys can check out as well. Zach's got quite a lot of nice gardening content on his channel where he really can show a lot of knowledge and tips as well, specifically in that field. That's been something where I've really been enjoying recently. I mean, I've always been a bit of a gardener as well. But within the prepping community, I think that it's extremely important for us to just be able to understand how great of a capability it is that right now we have access to the internet, just to be able to interact and share with each other and to make each other feel like part of a community, And I think that that's one of the most amazing things behind emergency preparedness, not only the mentality that goes into it as well, but definitely the community element, and then that aspect of being able to share knowledge with one another and meet new people. At the moment as well, I think across the world, people are experiencing a bit of a loneliness epidemic in some ways, and it hits everybody differently. And I really believe that that is something that is really, something that we can kind of interact and encounter with these type of communities that we've been able to build up over time, Zach. I know that within yourself as well, extremely strong community mindset as well. And that's something. If we're speaking about that topic, this is one of the topics that we're going to be raised and we'll be able to discuss as well. So it's engaging newcomers and strategies for introducing emergency preparedness to those who may not recognize its importance. This is one that's quite important. Do you want to raise anything about this on this point as well, Zach? Sure.
Emergency preparedness is often met with skepticism by those who haven't encountered a situation requiring immediate action. To introduce the concept, start with relatable examples. People may not have experienced a large-scale disaster, but almost everyone has dealt with smaller crises like power outages or car breakdowns. By highlighting these everyday events, it becomes easier to show how being prepared can prevent panic and make life smoother during unpredictable moments. Focusing on familiar situations builds a foundation for understanding larger-scale preparedness. Another strategy is to present the idea of preparedness as a form of insurance. Most individuals already insure their homes, cars, and health, recognizing the need for protection against the unexpected. Emergency preparedness can be framed in the same light, as a form of life insurance that extends beyond financial security. This approach appeals to practical minds by showing the tangible benefits of having a plan in place before trouble strikes. One powerful method is to address the emotional aspect of preparedness. Many people are overwhelmed by fear or anxiety when thinking about disasters. Acknowledging these emotions, while offering preparation as a way to regain control, can shift their mindset. Empowering individuals to take small steps toward being prepared alleviates fear and fosters a sense of security. Encouraging them to focus on manageable tasks allows them to build confidence without feeling overwhelmed by the enormity of potential disasters. Engaging with stories of survival can also be an effective way to introduce emergency preparedness. Sharing real-life experiences of individuals who faced disasters and how their preparation helped them survive makes the topic more concrete. People often respond well to personal stories, especially when they highlight the human element behind preparedness. These narratives make the importance of preparation more tangible, relatable, and hard to ignore. A community-centered approach is another effective strategy. Many people don't see the need to prepare for emergencies on their own but may be more receptive to the idea when it's presented as a way to help others. Framing preparedness as a community effort, where individuals can support neighbors, friends, and family, appeals to the human desire for connection and mutual aid. This strategy emphasizes collective responsibility and taps into the desire to protect loved ones. Also, leveraging media can be highly influential. Using documentaries, news coverage of recent disasters, or even fictional depictions of emergency situations in TV shows and movies can grab people's attention. When individuals see how fragile life can be, even in controlled environments, it creates an opportunity to discuss preparedness. The goal is to raise awareness through visual and emotional engagement, allowing people to see how easily a lack of preparedness can affect their lives.
Brilliant, Zach. You've raised some really important points as well. What I'm going to be doing, because in the sake of the stream, is in the description below, I'll be pointing out to some of the specific questions and the topics that were raised. And while you were speaking now, I just gained a couple of those points as well to be able to speak on what you're saying as well. And I think that, if I may, would you be okay with me just giving a bit of a response to that as well? Okay, awesome. What I'll do is, so one of the very first videos that I started off with, and the reason why I did, when I started to kind of publicize the content that I was kind of busy with, and also with my current engagement, is specifically that fear element. And as soon as we start getting into preparedness, it's very easy for us to fall into that mentality and for us to really understand how far we may be off from being fully prepared in a lot of ways. And that is something that can also throw people off of prepping. But at the same time, it's that journey of just taking it bit by bit and slowly but gradually and steadily moving forward through that journey of preparedness as well, and obtaining knowledge. Because we can have like a good couple of skill sets, which are important too, but when we can also have like a great big hoard of preps, like tins and all those type of things. But for the most part, the knowledge that we have is always going to be so much more important. And that's where you're able to assist other people as well with a good centered knowledge around preparedness as well, and around self-reliance specifically. And that's something that can help immensely. And as I said as well, we did a stream over on Unique Prepping's channel about a week back, and we spoke about some of these things too. We spoke about the capability that we've got as well to be able to make sure that we've got that community-centric point of view, which is really important. And then not just the fear element, but the amount of anxiety that a person goes through when it comes to realizing like how close we could be to any type of sorry for the German Shepherd puppy in the background. she's always just trying to sneak in a little bit on the camera as well. She enjoys being on cam. And but like from our side, when it comes down to the way that we relate to other people as well, and the way that we discuss these things, having them being introduced into preparedness in a very gradual and slow way in the beginning is the best way to do so, because then a person doesn't have that like high level of fear that can be attached to it. And when you speak about stories of survival, those are so good. Sometimes a person won't even have like the mindset to be able to relate to any type of SHTF type scenarios, right? But then what can happen is just from like picking up certain pieces of media, watching movies, giving some documentaries some time and seeing how people live right now in the world, how they're able to use certain elements of the nature of the natural world around them to their advantage as well, to be able to like, you know, keep themselves alive and to keep themselves secure and safe. That's so important. Those relatable stories, and then the fragility of life is something that's huge as well. It's important for us to realize that once we start on the journey as well, that there is that element of fatigue that can come in, you know, prepping fatigue as well. So that's something that I've also come and dealt with over time. But absolutely true. And please do, if you're watching this right now, head over to Zach's channel as well. I've given a link in the on the side channel, but I will make just remind everybody every now and again just to head over to Zach's channel too, and just subscribe over there. It would mean the world to me as well if you supported his channel. There's a lot of good videos and good content there, and I can assure you that he's one of the most like amazing people when it comes to just being there for his friends and being a center point of the community too. So I really love that about you, Zach. Thank you for what you do. I want to move on to, do you mind if we move on to the next one as well? All right, cool. So modern prepping, your thoughts on how landscape of prepping has evolved over the past few decades. This one is also quite interesting, and we can just give a little bit of back and forward about this topic if you like, Zach.
Prepping has undergone a significant transformation over the past few decades. In the early days, it was seen as a fringe activity, something only done by those who were overly paranoid or believed in extreme conspiracy theories. The focus was primarily on Cold War anxieties and potential nuclear fallout. Stockpiling food, water, and basic supplies was a common practice, but it was largely viewed as unnecessary by the general public. Preppers were often isolated in their efforts, working independently and keeping their plans secret.
Yeah.
In the 1990s and early 2000s, technology and the internet began to reshape the prepping landscape. Information became more accessible, and prepping communities started to form online. What once was a solitary endeavor turned into a more social and organized movement. People began to share ideas, strategies, and resources through forums and websites. The rise of reality TV shows about survival and prepping also brought this lifestyle into mainstream awareness, though often in an exaggerated manner that sometimes reinforced negative stereotypes. Economic instability and global uncertainties in recent years have expanded the scope of prepping. It is no longer just about preparing for catastrophic disasters but also for more subtle disruptions to everyday life. Financial collapse, job loss, and civil unrest have become just as much a part of the conversation as large-scale disasters. Prepping has taken on a more practical tone, with people preparing for more localized or personal hardships, not just the end-of-the-world scenarios. Another major shift has been in the types of people involved in prepping. It is no longer dominated by a single demographic or mindset. Prepping has become more diverse, with people from different walks of life recognizing the value of being prepared. Families, urban dwellers, and even those who would have never considered themselves preppers a few decades ago are now getting involved. It has moved from being a subculture to being a practical and accessible lifestyle for many. The tools and supplies used for prepping have also evolved. Preppers today have access to advanced gear, gadgets, and information that were not available in the past. High-tech water filtration systems, solar-powered devices, and portable communication tools have replaced some of the more basic equipment used by earlier generations of preppers.
Yes.
People are now more focused on sustainability and long-term self-reliance rather than just short-term survival. A final evolution in prepping has been the shift towards community-based efforts. Instead of focusing solely on individual preparedness, many preppers now emphasize building networks of like-minded individuals. Communities are coming together to share resources, skills, and knowledge. The rise of mutual aid groups and local preparedness initiatives reflects a recognition that surviving tough times may be easier when people work together rather than in isolation.
100% so. Yeah, specifically with that, how it's evolved. In decades past, it'd be difficult for people who understood, the fundamentals behind preparedness to actually. They would feel extremely isolated, because I don't know if anybody else here has actually tried to bring up the conversation at any point of prepping with people that aren't into preparedness, and seen how people are just like, they raise their hands. They're like, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to. And I'm not saying everybody. Fortunately, after CV-19, after the COVID kind of situation as well, like people kind of opened up and they started to see it. But now again, just at the back of that, like 2-3 years later, and people are almost forgetting again. They're like forgetting why it was so important to have those things in place. And even though the people saw those long queues in stores where they couldn't get their supplies as well, it's just so strange how they didn't put two and two together and realize. And I mean, fortunately, there are a couple of people that are getting more into it, but. I think it's amazing when people look at the types of tools as well that we were using back in the day, and how that's evolved within itself. There's always the capabilities that we've got to learn from them, which you mentioned earlier, Zach, as well. Looking at how people used to do things before the age of water filters as well that we've got there now, and before like these convenient tools that we have. There's a good couple of them, like some of the most advanced items that we have accessibility to now weren't even thought of 2-3 decades ago as well. So it's important to have that mix and balance, I think, of both. And absolutely, being able to discuss and have communities where we can speak about the topic of preparedness. I cannot explain to you how important that is as well. And I just want to touch on the job topic. So unfortunately, through this year, the type of position, and I'll just touch on this for about a minute real quick, but through the last several years, I've been working for a technology company as well, like a safety type technology company. And it's really it helps so many different people in different verticals of work, right? But at the same time, it's very challenging, because in South Africa, the economy is really rough. So companies are trying to tighten their belts consistently. And unfortunately, our team is going through quite a struggle at the moment. And if it was not for the prepper mentality and being prepared for pretty much any type of rough situation, I wouldn't have been able to, mentally be as at peace as I am right now with the current situation. And obviously, I want to be successful in my career, but prepping itself can absolutely help when it comes to these type of things too. That it's not just your large ZSHTF type scenario, but it's also, Von Eric, amazing to see you. I haven't seen that name for a long time. Von Eric, where's your faith? I really, really like that. Good to see you. But yeah, so from our side, 100%, not only when SHTF type scenarios could occur, but just like job loss and type of scenarios that are playing out in the world right now, it's absolutely important for us to be on top of them. Would you like me to move on to the next one, Zach? I've got another one queued up for us here. And it kind of segues quite neatly into this next topic too, where SHTF scenarios, shit hitting the fan, the most concerning scenarios you foresee unfolding in the next few years. And this is quite an interesting topic too, that I just want to have your thoughts on, Zach.
SHTF scenarios can come from many different directions. One of the biggest concerns is the breakdown of social order. With the increasing polarization in society, civil unrest could escalate. Political divisions are growing deeper, and violent clashes between opposing groups are becoming more common. When people feel disconnected from their government and lose faith in institutions, it creates a volatile environment. If things continue to deteriorate, we could see widespread rioting, looting, and chaos in cities. Economic collapse is another major concern. The global economy has been on shaky ground for years, with increasing national debt, inflation, and reliance on fiat currency.
Yeah.
Many countries are already experiencing economic instability. If one of the world's leading economies were to collapse, it could trigger a domino effect. People could lose access to basic necessities like food and fuel. Supply chains could break down, leaving shelves empty and causing widespread panic. Economic collapse often leads to a surge in crime as people become desperate to survive. The threat of cyber attacks on critical infrastructure is more concerning than ever. As more of our systems become digital, they are increasingly vulnerable to hackers. A well-coordinated attack on power grids, water supplies, or financial institutions could cripple a nation. The effects would be felt immediately, with millions of people left without power, water, or access to their finances. Recovery from such an attack would take time, and during that period, society would face great instability. Chaos could reign as people scramble to secure resources. Another potential threat is the possibility of a large-scale war. Tensions between major world powers are rising. Conflicts in regions like the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Asia are intensifying. Nations are arming themselves and strengthening alliances, preparing for potential conflict.
Yep.
The use of advanced weapons, including nuclear or biological weapons, in such a war could have devastating effects on a global scale. The consequences would extend far beyond the battlefield, affecting civilians, economies, and the environment. Food scarcity is becoming a growing concern. As populations rise and agricultural practices become more industrialized, the food supply chain becomes more fragile. Droughts, disease, and other unforeseen events could quickly disrupt the production of essential crops. A significant disruption could lead to food shortages, and when people can no longer access food, panic sets in. Widespread famine and hunger can lead to social unrest and even conflicts over resources. Finally, one of the most troubling possibilities is the collapse of healthcare systems. With increasing pressure on healthcare resources and the rise of antibiotic-resistant diseases, many systems are already stretched thin. A sudden surge in patients from a pandemic or other major event could overwhelm hospitals. When healthcare systems fail, people can't get the medical attention they need. This leads to higher mortality rates and a breakdown in public trust. When people can no longer rely on healthcare, society itself begins to unravel.
Yeah, that's what we're faced with right now. Yeah, that's such a big one. And I think that right now in the world, if we're to be serious, it's on the tip of everybody's tongue, where we are so close to a collapse when it comes to different countries in the world having conflict with one another. And this, when you speak about one country collapsing and it having a major domino effect, if you look right now, I get that every single election is a polarizing one to some degree, but this election, everybody's saying it. If you look across all sources of media, everybody's saying how this is absolutely one of the most concerning times regarding the US politics as well, because it's never been as divided. And if you look at it from like an outside perspective as well, and we speak about the capability for US to be the country where if something is occurring, that other countries will absolutely feel the immediate effect. Even countries that are part of the BRICS alliance will absolutely feel the same type of pressure as well. And I've always been somebody that, that tries to keep an eye and tab on what's happening specifically in the United States because of its impact, but not only because of its impact, but my love and admiration for the United States really is lifelong at this point. You can ask anybody and they'll be able to tell you like how much Jay specifically loves, like the US. I really do. And the reason why that could really have ramifications on the rest of the world is if we look at what's happened in the past as well, when there have been turmoil, it really comes down to how badly things can get out of control. And that's really something that I'm quite stressed about at the moment. And I think that a lot of people should be too, about how close we are to the large-scale wars. And there's currently more than 50 wars taking place. You can look it up if you want to as well. But there's more than 50 wars taking place across the world right now that people don't even hear about. The tensions across the world too could spill over. And that's one of the most realistic type scenarios as well that could occur in terms of SHTF probability, is that war and the time between long peace, which we're known as being in long peace at the moment, which is the period of time between the end of Second World War and right now. And that is the longest time that the world has ever seen without there being some sort of a scale war like that was on that specific scale as well. So if you look up the term long peace, that's what we're in right now. And we could absolutely be heading for something. In fact, we would be overdue by that sentiment for something that would be a large scale, which also ties quite closely into the economic situation across the world, the inflation and how tense that's been. And the fact that because of inflation, we could absolutely see a lot of political parties trying to cause strife, because if you look at the back of a lot of the times where people have faced a lot of long periods of time where people have faced economic strife, usually countries can use something such as war to pull themselves out of it, because it does, and they'll try and push more and lean more on that. So absolutely, that's something that we should be quite concerned about, and that keeping our eyes on specifically the situation at the moment will be very helpful for us, because we're going to know exactly when we see those final signs. In every single conflict throughout the past, you've always seen an increase in flag waving near the time of there being some sort of war. And internally as well, when it comes to conflicts, there's always an increase of unemployment, which across the world right now we're seeing more and more. And every single time there's been that rise in unemployment, it's followed on its back closely by there being a large-scale war. And not only that, but because of the advent of technology and the technologies that are currently taking people's work and their jobs, you're seeing more unemployed as well, which could easily drip into there being more conflict socially. And then when it comes to social unrest, on the last point about this quickly too, is the fact that we've seen that across the world without it being, wartime. So in wartime, it had pushed those situations so much more. The next one that we'll be moving on here as well is advice for preppers and tips for fellow preppers to enhance their readiness for the future. You want to cover that for a bit, sir?
Prepping requires a mindset of adaptability and resourcefulness. Every situation can change rapidly, and the ability to adjust plans is crucial. Preppers need to be mentally prepared for the unexpected. This means practicing different survival scenarios and knowing what to do in case of an emergency. Develop a strong understanding of basic survival skills like fire starting, first aid, and water purification. Food storage is essential. Focus on foods with a long shelf life and high nutritional value. Rotate your stock regularly to prevent spoilage. Consider learning how to grow your own food. Gardening skills will be vital in case supplies run low. Explore the benefits of canning, preserving, and dehydrating foods as well. Diversify your food storage to avoid reliance on a single type of provision. Communication during a crisis is often overlooked. Preppers should ensure they have multiple methods of staying in touch with their community. Ham radios, walkie-talkies, and other non-reliant technologies can make all the difference. Establish a network of fellow preppers to share resources and information. Practice using communication devices regularly to ensure readiness when needed. Security is another priority. Protect your home and loved ones by setting up strong defense systems. This doesn't always mean weapons. It can include fortifying doors and windows or using technology like motion sensors and cameras. Always have a plan in place for when things escalate. Train yourself and your family in self-defense methods, even if it's just basic techniques. Don't neglect the importance of physical fitness. Prepping involves manual tasks, sometimes under extreme conditions. Being in good physical shape can mean the difference between life and death. Work on strength, stamina, and endurance through regular exercise. Balance it with mental wellness to stay calm and collected during stressful times. Always keep learning. Stay informed about the latest survival techniques, technological advancements, and societal trends. Read books, attend workshops, and participate in online forums to gain insights from other preppers. Knowledge is a prepper's most valuable tool.
100% so. It's knowledge and the ability that we've got to use that knowledge in intense situations that will be the difference between life or death. Straightforward. Anybody getting into it as well, that's such a good way to be able to encourage people to get into it. And it is something that is a lifelong journey. It is something that will come up consistently. Whenever you're watching the news or hear about any type of ZSHTF type scenario on the horizon, that's something that's really going to that usually stress people out. When you're into preparedness, you're more just looking at a way to kind of circumvent that situation. And that's really, at the end of the day, what really comes down to planning. What's that saying again? It's failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So not having any sort of contingency plan in place whatsoever is really a rough one. And then you mentioned something that not many people really mention often enough. I firmly believe that communications as well, being able to let people know where you're at, across the board, a united front, when you have a group as well, where you can communicate with one another, and having, just general two-way radio setups as well can really be quite helpful. It really does help a lot to have the capability to utilize a ham radio, so to be a ham operator. There are courses that you can do even online that can increase your knowledge about that too, and will definitely open up a lot of avenues when it comes to communication. And then solar capability as well is something that I wanted to mention. And CR in the side chats mentioned networking. So this, specifically when it comes to networking, is one of the most amazing elements as well that you have, Zach, in your one of the best arrows in your quiver, so to speak, is the capability to draw on people as well, and to have people that for different specific skill sets. And I think that each person that can bring a certain element to the table as well can be extremely resourceful and useful. Sometimes having a couple of minds together, not even on a physical front, but having a couple of heads together and a couple of people's minds can absolutely be so important. And that's how you can, resolve a lot of type of scenarios by just remaining calm. And something that really comes up quite often is a community's capability to protect themselves. There we're speaking about defense. Defense not only in weapons, but awareness, having a level of mindfulness as well, making sure that when it comes to locking doors and when it comes to closing and locking windows, or being alert of your surroundings too. We touched on it briefly on the stream that we did on your channel, but I think that it's important for us to realize that, when it comes to security, to trust people is very difficult. To actually have a level of trust, and when you trust the wrong people, that's when you let your guard down, and you can end up absolutely jeopardizing yourself and the people that you care for. So trust is such a big one, and then to create friendships, to create bonds with other people right now, it's a time where people are becoming more and more concerned about others too. So trust is becoming more difficult. In the age of information, even though we're all able to connect with each other, it does become so much more difficult to believe in people, because we're being lied to consistently on everything that we see on the screen, right? So to actually believe in more people as well can be such an important thing to do, but at the same time, it's hard. Coming from a lifetime experience as well for myself, where I've recently got into an engagement where I was speaking to my mom-in-law about my past as well, my past experiences when it comes to why I have trust issues, when it comes to certain things. And just being able to have somebody to discuss certain things of the mind and of the heart when it does come to intense situations. Look, because for the most part, when it comes to rough scenarios that we could face, it really can play a big part on somebody's mind state when they go through absolutely traumatic experiences. SHTF type scenarios and emergency scenarios that we speak of quite often include times where we'll see loved ones that we've been around with for our whole lives lost, like lives lost of people that we know. The amount of horrifying things that you could come across in a real, and I'm speaking about raw SHTF here, can absolutely play a big part in the person's mind, psychologically speaking and emotionally speaking. So to have people around you to be able to actually just rally together, that you can sometimes, that'll just be able to listen and that you're able to speak to, can be really, really good. And to have those friendships that you feel like you're not alone is one of the best things that we could ever do. I'm going to, over here, Zach, as well, what I'm going to do is open up, when your heart races, look, and when you start stressing as well, I'm going to open up a bit of a Q&A section too, for anybody that's on the side that would like to just post some questions as well over here. You're most welcome to raise any questions that you guys might have. And I think that we can get through just a couple of Q&A, like a bit of a Q&A section as well on this if you guys have something. So from our side, before we go further into that, prepping itself really is a lifelong journey, and it's something where if we realize how to do it correctly and in a non-threatening way to others, we can absolutely have a lot more people be prepared. And ideally, that's what we'd want, because for the most part, in the community that you're at, in your neighborhood and local area, it's going to be extremely important to encourage others to take prepping more seriously, because the more people that are prepared, the less that we'll lean on immediate and just-in-time delivery services that the supermarkets and grocery stores provide for us currently. You want to get as many people into self-reliance as you can, which also, where Zach is speaking about gardening is one of the best ways to do so. If you can understand how to counter the problems that can come up when you're gardening as well, how to counter disease and pests. And just a quick disclaimer, one of the best ways to ever counter any disease when it comes to plants, 100%, is sunlight, absolutely sunlight, and fresh air, fresh passage underneath plants, because plants, whenever you get a buildup of plants leaves near the soil, that's when it can encourage quite a lot of disease. So be sure whenever you're doing pretty much any planting that a lot of the time you're keeping your plants like raised up nicely above the soil as well, and that you're making sure that there's not too much congestion and that there's also a lot of sunlight on those plants, because disease, sunlight and air, fresh air, are the absolute enemies to all plant diseases. So, of course, you're going to have some that you'll encounter that you need to use different elements as well. But yeah, having a proactive approach from creative redundancy is absolutely true. Being able to do so and being able to stay calm, that's one of the most important things that we can do. And the more that we learn and the more that we learn from others, the greater we expand on our knowledge base. And knowledge is absolutely going to be something that can save us. Go ahead, Zach.
Guardian, is that mounding?
Which one? Yeah, thank you very much, Sia, for being supportive in the chat section as well. Really appreciate your encouragement and the friendship. Speaking about friendship, it really does matter to have people around that we can chat to, that are in our community. it's these important conversations that we can have that also increase our awareness and keep us on the ball, because prepper fatigue is a real thing. And a lot of the time when you are into preparedness, you can feel isolated from the general community as well. And it's because of that we can be here for each other. It really comes down to being able to just share experiences and stories of things that we may have been through. And yeah. So we're actually making strawberry jam. Ben brings up that point. Did you have a point that you wanted to raise, Zach?
Guardian, is that mounding? When we build up soil around the plants to keep away diseases.
Yes, it's so they call it a mulch volcano, right? And what people do a lot of the time is, instead of, because obviously mulch, when it comes to any sort of bush or any tree and creating that kind of canopy style in your food forest or where you're growing things, that mounding that you're speaking about, when they have too much of the mulch directly around the base of the tree, that's one of the worst things that people can do, because it increases so much more disease. And actually, just a couple of days ago, I really got a reminder about how important it is to just push that mulch around, so that there's a good area around the base of the tree as well, so that it doesn't bring upon those pests and diseases quite frequently. And of course, having mulch, mulch in general, adds so much nutrients that seep into the soil over time too. And over here, we've got extraordinarily high levels of heat as well. So what happens is, because we're close to a body of water, it amplifies that heat sometimes, and it completely turns. I love that jokes here. It completely turns like a regular ground into something that's dry and that the plants don't, enjoy whatsoever. And what also happens is the evaporation that occurs when you don't have mulch, is so quick. So the plants and the trees specifically, which require that deep kind of rinsing of their roots, deep draining, so that they can get a lot of that liquid, a lot of that water. They really don't get a lot of that water, because the ground is turned to like a clay substance. So I love that too much to mulch of a good thing. But yeah, absolutely, mulch is always good. I really enjoy that too. And I do want to offer to Zach, if you're interested, we can definitely do another one of these streams. I like it when people have a bit of a continuation when it comes to content as well in live streams. And if you're interested, we could even hit one of these up every month, do a live stream like this once or twice a month or something like that. I'd love that. And it'd be really cool just to have a catch up as well. On StreamYard, I'll give you a time or something where during the week you and I can catch up offline as well and just have a general catch up, because I really enjoy the conversations as well, Zach. And then thank you to everybody in the side chat over here. My humor is dirty. Sorry, another gardening and dirt joke made there by CR. So I do believe in having community and fostering a strong sense and level of community too. So the second stream that we do, this was more of an introduction one. The second stream that we do as well, we'll pick like a specific preparedness topic as well and go a little bit through that. But I just want to say thank you so much for making the time, Zach. I genuinely do appreciate the friendship. And in my modern life, I've gotten to a point where I can't explain to you how important it is for me to have these friendships. I have a situation where I used to have so many friendships growing up as well in my youth. And as I've gotten older and as my time has been allocated towards not just family, but my career, in aid of my family, I have slowed down on having the abundance of friends and the amount of quantity of people and just that quality of people too. So I really look forward to maintaining a good level of communication between us, and we'll definitely have a good catch up, perhaps early even next week if you like, Zach. On the side. But thanks to everybody in the chat. Yes. Perfect. All right. I just want to say thank you to you, Zach. We'll definitely catch up soon. I'll drop you a message on when we can catch up offline. I'll also introduce you to my little family over here on this side. I think that'll be really cool. And you'll see where a lot of my drive comes from for the things that I do as well. So Thank you very much, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you, everybody in the side chat. Bye for now. You can stay on and we can chat a bit if you like, Zach. It's awesome. All right. Bye-bye.